couple of things. If you don't have materials to take notes with, we have a table at the back with pads of paper and pens, and also there's a cassette display of our music by our guests. And very briefly, maybe I want to call them to just say a nice hello to us. Maybe we'll start with Trisha. Trisha, if you can
Hello, well, very good to be here. I'm the sort of silent one in the party, although I do sing. So, and I'll say something if I have something to say, or I glare at Noel if he goes on too long and it's a bit boring or something. But we're very glad to be here. It was a real privilege to do what we do, travel and see so many different aspects of God's great body. And our differences are to be celebrated, because I think in our differences and the challenge times about being the body of Christ. So I hope today that you'll be provoked and you have lots of questions. I think that's a good thing, because a healthy body is always growing, is always developing. So I really pray you have a great day today. No. I've said what I said.
Well, oh, sorry, I usually talk quietly, but this is great. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we are delighted to be here, as Chris said. Thank you, Noel. It's wonderful having a pastor with the same name as me. It's very easy to remember names. Yeah. Anyway, it is wonderful to be here. We were worried at the start of the week that we might not be able to get to Canada. We should have been in here last Saturday afternoon. But we had this volcano erupt in Iceland, so that closed down the airspace of 23 European countries. So nothing moved until Tuesday night, and then they decided, probably the scientists didn't know everything, so they flew a few planes up there, they didn't crash, so they thought, well, okay, we'll carry some passengers. So fortunately we were able to rebook our flight, and this was the earliest they could get us out here, was yesterday, so we came in yesterday afternoon. And we had to be here because we're flying down to the US tomorrow night to see our daughter and son-in-law and grandson. So we had to come into Toronto, and we had this busy weekend lined up. So I'm glad we could be here today. And thank you for coming. And I hope that today will be an encouragement to you, and maybe, as Chris said, provoke some questions and stuff like that. And we may have some time for some questions and answers. We'll see how the day progresses. But it really is wonderful to be here. And Trish and I have been married now, this is our 32nd year. We got married in 1978. So we've got two kids, a son and a daughter. Our daughter lives in the States. And as I say, we've got a grandson, 9 months old. So we are officially old people. And then our son lives in England near us with his wife, who's also American. So I guess we'll be kind of traveling back and forth across the Atlantic for the rest of our lives. Until we get too old to do that, then we'll have to, try and sort of become legal immigrants somewhere. Anyway, just really kind of want to take you on a little bit of my journey. And Trish and I, we've been co-writing songs together since we met and since we've been married. So often I'm kind of like the visible face of the songs. But if you look at the credits for the songs, you often see that it's a co-write between me and Trish. We're a team, and we write together, travel together, and now the kids at that time, we can have fun, and that's what we do. So, we go on a lot of skiing holidays. And ski holiday, basically SKI, stands for Spending the Kids' Inheritance. So we got a bunch of ski holidays. Anyway, I just want to share our journey with you, and I hope it'll be an encouragement. I guess most of you are involved in worship teams, is that right? Yeah, okay. So that helps me as I'm sharing today to know that I'm just addressing those who are involved in leading worship, involved in doing what the team have been doing here. Great. Galen, thank you, team, for leading us in worship. That was fantastic stuff. Oh, there you are. I was looking for you, Helen and Paul. Thank you. And really enjoyed. singing along with you guys. So really I want to share from my journey, and hope that this will be an encouragement to you. And I really want to start at the beginning and looking at what worship is. I grew up in a Pentecostal church. I used to go to church 3 times on a Sunday: morning, Sunday school in the afternoon, evening gospel service. Did that for all my early life. My parents are still alive, they're still in the same church. My mum still is involved in the worship team. She's 80 this year, and she's getting deaf in one ear. And the pastor said to her, maybe you should make way for somebody younger. And she's saying, well, you know, I can still do it, you know. And it's kind of funny. Because when my mum and dad were, you know, when I was very young, we didn't have worship teams. And worship teams are really something that's kind of evolved over the last 20 years or so. And there's been a real kind of... What is that?
Train truck.
Oh, train. Okay. I thought, is this something coming through the building? Yes. I was a bit worried at the moment, but I could see you were worried, so I thought, well, it must be okay. You're a total piece. Okay. So where was I? Yes, and we didn't have worship teams. So in the church where I grew up, there was a piano at one side and the organ at the other. And in some churches, it was a competition. You know, who would get to the end of the song first, the pianist or the organist? And of course, you know, as this modern worship movement began to grow, then the organist in some traditional churches found that he wasn't needed anymore. So the organist would really kind of like, well, I'm out of a job, I don't like this. And somebody once had a joke, apologies to any organists here, what's the difference between an organist and a terrorist? And the answer is you can negotiate with a terrorist. So apologies to any organists here. Organists are very nice people, but I just couldn't resist that joke. I thought it was just wonderful. But you know, people often struggle with the new, you know, changing from the old way of doing things to the new. And so we found ourselves, Chris and I, back in the late 1970s, leading worship at a youth church. And really we were established as a youth church because we found that people in traditional churches just didn't want to make room for the new life that was coming in. And when people were getting saved at the missions that we were doing around the city where we lived, we couldn't put them into churches because we knew that they would just die in some of these churches. And basically people just didn't want to change. When you get married and you have kids, your kind of relationship has to change because you have to make way for the new life. And your life kind of revolves around these little kids, you know, and nurturing them, developing them, seeing them grow into adults. And that's what parenting is all about. When our daughter had our grandson, she said, you know, like, when do you stop feeling responsible for them? And we said, you never do. So, you know, our kids are grown up and married, we still feel responsible. And when new life comes into the church, we need to change. Otherwise our church will die. Because, you know, we need new life coming in. And so we found ourselves leading worship. We didn't know that we were leading worship because, as I said, we never used terms like that. And when the church comes together, the church likes to sing. And this will kind of come into our next hour when I'm sharing. But, you know, one of the roles of the worship team is